We have reached Christmas Eve levels of excitement here because the EFL Championship 25-26 season kicks off tomorrow. And why not? To mark the eve of the new season, let's do a monthly check-in with what the bookies are saying is going to happen in the Championship next season. It's been a great week for our random, subjective predictions. I've done my 1 to 24s, but these are made by people who have skin in the game. The market and the bookies have money on the line. So always worth checking these. Normal housekeeping here. We're using Bet365 odds and we're using the odds outright to win the Championship. Let's start down at the bottom. And Sheffield Wednesday fans are probably very used to seeing a 24 next to their name this week. And they may get used to seeing a 24 next to their name throughout the season. Understandably, with Mr. Chansiri's off-pitch antics through the close season, Wednesday are the rank outsiders. They've dropped from 18th in June to 22nd in July to 24th, understandably now. And their odds have increased, drum roll please, by a whopping 300%. I think we all understand where that's going. Oxford fans, we're damning with faint praise here because you have gone up in the betting from 24th to 23rd, but the odds have slipped. And the truth of the matter is, it's that they've slipped less than Sheffield Wednesday's that's bumped Oxford up there. So, Sam Parkin and I agree on this. I think that's good value. Don't forget Gary Rowett's in the dugout there. So, please gamble responsibly, but if you want to go against that one, I quite like the idea of Oxford surviving. I also quite like the idea of Charlton surviving. Again, I think there's value there before the league and the market kind of decides who is actually going to be dropping. Charlton, yeah, they've also moved up by virtue of the fact that Wednesday have drifted so badly. Interestingly, Charlton's odds have stayed exactly where they are throughout June, despite what most people think is a pretty good transfer window where Nathan Jones has been backed. Again, value there in my humble opinion. QPR, exactly the same deal here, have moved up from 20th into a group of 3 teams in 19th. And Rangers odds have stayed the same throughout as well. Preston are there. I can say exactly the same thing. They were grouped with Pompey to start close season, but you can see Pompey aren't on that screen. They've been replaced by Hull City in this kind of survivors group just above the bottom 3 there. Yeah, Preston have not budged. Hull have. Hull started the summer in 16th and they have drifted obviously since that soft transfer embargo. The odds have dropped quite a lot actually. They didn't drift until July, but again, like Sheffield Wednesday, but not quite so extreme. This is obviously down to off-pitch stuff and the antics of Mr. Ilachali there. What do they say? Owners relegate clubs, but the market doesn't see Hull dropping. Again, we are on the eve of the new season. We will know a hell of a lot more very, very soon. There is your bottom 6 thoughts in the comments. We'll move you on to the middle order. We've had to go with 7 teams there. You can see a load tied in 12th. Derby there in the middle, and then Blackburn and Pompey, who we are going to start with. And as I mentioned, Pompey were, to start the summer, grouped with Preston and QPR, kind of in the relegation battle. They've moved out a little bit there, so the market likes Portsmouth. They've moved, in fact, they've gone 20th, 19th, 17th. So a consistent backing of Portsmouth throughout the summer. Let me know your thoughts on that. Blackburn have gone in the other direction. They've moved down with Hull, not quite so badly as Hull. They started 16th. So they have dropped a place there, Blackburn, and their odds have shifted by about 25%. They've drifted as well there, Blackburn. So the market likes Pompey. It doesn't like Blackburn, and they have converged there together on in 17th place. The market likes Derby, though. up from 18th to 16th across the summer. And their odds, have shifted in by 20%. I guess optimism, a good finish last season, and a pretty good looking transfer window as well for Derby. Now, right throughout the summer, we've kind of had this middle order here. You can see Millwall have moved away from it, but we've had certainly Bristol City, Stoke, Swansea and Watford have been tied together the whole time. In fact, I tell a lie. Bristol City were actually positioned above that to start the summer. Maybe that playoff finish still in everybody's heads, and maybe the betting just starts with the league table and we work in what the market is doing and where the money's going and liabilities changed. So, yeah, I'll correct what I said there. Watford, Swansea, Stoke, kind of as you were, the odds haven't moved. Yeah, Bristol City have drifted only from 11th into 12th, kind of into that middle order range. But let's be quite frank, that's the market and the bookies saying they don't really know. They're going to slot all of those teams right slap bang in the middle. Some will be higher, some will be lower, and a very literal hedging of bets there. We're kind of in the top half with a lot tied at 12 there, but let's move properly into the top half there and see the sides outside the playoffs. And we've already mentioned the market like Millwall. They've been backed in from 12th there to joint 10th. And the odds have shifted ever so slightly. I think it's the movement out of Bristol City that's helped Millwall as well. Their move into the top 10. It still seems pretty accurate to me. Here is a fascinating one though. Wrexham have drifted. And I don't understand particularly why. This has got to be a liability thing. Maybe people were just betting a lot of money on Wrexham following promotion and things have just regressed to the mean and leveled out. Because frankly, the only thing that's changed since then is that Wrexham have signed a hell of a lot of players and a hell of a lot of championship-ready players as well. So it's a bit of a weird one then. That has got to be a clear market move that the bookies must have had to shorten Wrexham at the start of the summer because they were probably just taking so many bets on Ryan and Rob's Disney-fied fairy tale story going for the fourth consecutive promotion. Wouldn't it be back to back to back to back? Can they do it? The market's got them drifting, but I think that might be slightly artificial and contrary to what we're seeing off the pitch. Maybe it's just moving it to the right place and it was in the wrong place to begin with. Be interested in your thoughts there. Now, here is, other than Sheffield Wednesday, our biggest drifter. Ladies and gentlemen, the market hates Middlesbrough. Let me know your thoughts on that. I mean, we started the summer with them tied in fourth place, right up there in the playoffs. And I don't know whether it's like everyone instinctively just takes Middlesbrough to start the conversation and sticks them in the playoffs because they're always kind of there or thereabouts, to use a well-worn football cliche. They drifted down to fifth, but that was more to do with another side who has been the big mover up, moving up and away from them through the summer. This time, though, it's been a big drift below West Brom, below Norwich. They've uncoupled from the playoff teams who they were tied with in June and dropped all the way to ninth. You want to explain that to me in the comments, particularly if you're a Borough fan? Managerial change? Maybe it's the lack of business? Maybe it's nothing to do with Middlesbrough. Maybe it's just other teams trending up and Borough are the collateral for that. You'd imagine if maybe Hackney had been sold and they'd signed 3 or 4 players, that wouldn't be happening. But, well, you tell me if that big drift is realistic or that now represents value on Middlesbrough to be higher than 9th. I don't know. Maybe they were in the wrong place to begin with. You tell me. West Brom in 8th. Well, this is interesting again. The odds drifted from June to July. I don't know if that's a vote of confidence for Ryan Mason. And they've come back in well, they've come back in position-wise, but the odds haven't changed. It's just Middlesbrough and Wrexham have obviously dropped below them. So, yeah, West Brom are kind of standing still, but moving forward because others have moved further back in the meantime, if you know what I mean, which tells me there's no particular great feeling on West Brom. And frankly, we don't know, do we? We don't know what a Ryan Mason team looks like. So West Brom kind of staying put, but Borough and Wrexham moving around them. Norwich, as I would have anticipated they would, have moved up, but their odds have not shortened through the summer. So again, Norwich's move up to 7th and right on the edge of the playoff position. I still think that's reasonable value. I still think they could be higher than that, Norwich. Spoiler alert, if you look at my 1 to 24s. But again, this is to do with Borough and Wrexham drifting downwards and trending down rather than Norwich's odds actually moving. It's just reorganised in the table. The market hasn't backed Norwich in to that position. Right, are you ready to see your EFL Championship top 6 according to the bookies and the market on the eve of the new season? Let's press the button to change the slide, and there you have it. Leicester, Coventry, Sheffield United, Birmingham, Southampton, Ipswich. Let's talk about Leicester first, and I think we're still in a holding pattern with Leicester. The market is waiting. They've gone 7th, then because Middlesbrough and Coventry drifted in July, they actually coupled up with those two and became 5th, even though the odds didn't move. And Coventry have now been backed in. And yeah, we'll talk about Birmingham in a minute. And so Leicester have uncoupled with them, but it's left them in 6th spot. The odds have not changed all summer. And you'll see that Ipswich and Southampton are much, much short of the other parachute teams. And I think we all understand that's because we're awaiting a potential EFL sanction to do with the charge for breaching PSR, which I always say PRS these days, the Performing Rights Society, rather than profit and sustainability rules. But Leicester fans will probably be quite happy with that. They just need to know they're going to be in the top 6 in what's been a bit of a tumultuous time. Coventry's interesting. They were fancied to begin with, then they drifted, and then they've come back in. So they've actually, in terms of odds, I think they're the only team that's kind of done that. We've had some teams that have gone up, 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 and teams that have gone down, down, down. Coventry have gone there, down, and then back in again and kind of met in the middle, which kind of makes some sense. I can see there being a fancying for Coventry in terms of stability of club. It's only really that managerial change last season that's the only thing that, you know, kind of knocks Coventry's stability over the last 4 or 5 years. They've trended really nicely up and become a playoff team in 2 of the last 3 seasons, missing out in kind of unlucky fashion on both occasions. So, Sheffield United have drifted, and we all know the reason why. It's because of Birmingham, isn't it? So, Sheffield United were 3rd favourites to start the summer on the basis that Leicester had uncoupled from the other 2 Year 1 parachute teams. I like Sheffield United, and the market has liked Sheffield United. They've moved in ever so slightly odds-wise, but obviously the massive move on Birmingham has just bumped Sheffield United down. And this will be the hype versus substance conversation, isn't it? Because on the one hand, Birmingham is literally all hype because they haven't played a championship game yet. The hype may be proven to be true, but Sheffield United on pitch got to the playoff final and put 92 points on the board last season. So there's a lot of substance to what Sheffield United did last season. But the market loves the hype of Birmingham City, who are our big, big winners throughout the summer, haven't they? And I said to you, you can wind back and we'll link it at the end of the video. I said in the last video, no one will be surprised if Birmingham are backed in to either 3rd or even 2nd by the time we reach the new season. And the bookies and the market have backed them into 3rd, but they haven't gone all in on taking Birmingham into 2nd. But the odds have moved in quite nicely. And look, when we're dealing with teams that are projecting 15th or 18th or whatever, you can get big number moves. At the top, it is very slight, the maneuverings. So the odds moving in by 1 or 2 or 3 is actually a big deal up at the top. And yeah, we all understand the reasons that Birmingham have kind of been so fancied. And tomorrow, we are going to start to find out whether the hype for Blues is justified and whether that number is going to go from a 3 to a 2 or to a 4 or a 5. All will be revealed at Knighthead Park tomorrow and over the first, run up to the first international break, whether that number is going to be changing. And speaking of changing, the top 2 has not been changing at all since relegation and Leicester being uncoupled. It's always been Southampton in second and Ipswich in first. 2 year 1 parachute teams. My argument has been Ipswich more fancied than Southampton just purely because of the stability of the management, that we haven't had a manager change at Ipswich. And as you would expect, being they're the 2 favourites, they have both been backed in. So we have seen over the last month Birmingham, Southampton and Ipswich all getting backed in. And it stands to reason that the favourites are going to get shorter and shorter as more and more money goes on them. So, speaking of money, we're going with the money. We're going with the parachute teams there. Birmingham with the Knighthead money. Sheffield United are a parachute team. Leicester are a parachute team. And Coventry have become the equivalent of a parachute team by good trading and raising great transfer income for Hamer and Gyökeres 2 seasons ago. And we're still getting the downstream effects of that. But that is your top 6 at the moment. Ipswich champions, Southampton automatic. Birmingham would play Leicester in the playoff semi. Sheffield United would play Coventry. It's juicy that, isn't it? But we will see how it all pans out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on a big drift for Sheffield Wednesday, understandably. At the bottom, the market likes Pompey. It doesn't particularly like Blackburn. It likes Derby. We're hedging bets in the middle. Other than Bristol City, who've drifted one way, Millwall have moved the other way. Big drift on Wrexham and Middlesbrough. Probably a bit of regression to the mean in terms of Wrexham. Borough is the elephant in the room there in terms of not being fancy. Norwich and Leicester moving the other direction with West Brom as a consequence of that. And the big movers at the top all summer have been Birmingham City. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. That's a lovely time capsule, that. I would love, if we fast forward into the future, if there was someone sat here towards the end of the season watching this video. Comment right now if it's actually Easter of 2026 and you want to know what happened, and what everybody was thinking in the market on the eve of the new season. There is your kind of look at it. And I said I would do it. Let's put up there. That is the June edition of this video. So you can see where we were right at the start of the closed season. And here is the July edition, where transfer window just opening up and things really starting moving.